Well, welcome back to Awake and Alive, the Ascension and Consciousness Convention. And our last, but certainly not least, speaker, I'm very happy to have the privilege of introducing to you Stephen D. Kelley. I've personally known Steve for 6, almost 7 years. Time flies when you're having fun or you're taking a quantum leap. And Steve has a very interesting background, and he's going to share that with you. What you'll find out is that Steve is privy to a lot of information that most of us would never be exposed to. And his life has been a little difficult because of his exposure. And one day I said to him, I said, Steve, the only way you're ever going to be free is to tell your story. Get out there, tell the world what you know, and then you'll be free. So, no further ado, put your hands together for Stephen D. Kelley.
Thank you, Dee Marie. Okay. I'm going to juggle 2 wires here. Pardon me. I don't like standing behind the things, so I got to move around. Okay, I was here about a month ago at the Alchemy event, and that's where I met Jerry, and that was my debut. It was the first time I really went public with my information, and we ran late. It was just kind of like this event here. We only had so much time to work with. I had an hour to speak, and I had so much I wanted to say. I didn't really even talk about myself, my own background, but I dove right into the good stuff. So tonight I'm going to try to give a little more background on myself and a little more story, and I'm going to try to explain some of the misconceptions that seem to have popped up since my stuff has hit the internet. And then I'd like to address something that I've also noticed in this field, and that is the way that the conspiracy theorists and the metaphysical types and the spiritual types and the scientific types, they just can't see that it's all connected. I want to kind of try to show how that stuff is all connected, because we're all working towards the same cause. And if we're lucky, I'm going to talk about energy and maybe even healing. Okay. We made a video here at the last event, and thank you very much. It was got put on YouTube, and it got probably about 8,500 hits, I think, in the last month, which is not bad for a silly video, huh? But and so I want to thank everybody out there that has listened to the interviews and what have you. But I want to address some of the negative stuff that came up, and of all the people, most of the stuff was very positive, but a couple things that were said was kind of negative, and it was kind of silly, and this just kind of showed me why I need to talk about this. Let me see, what did they say? One guy said, "That's not how a CIA guy talks. They don't talk like that." And I said, he says, "They don't look like that. Oh, he sounds like David Icke, or he's just spouting that metaphysical nonsense." Or my favorite, "I don't like his ponytail." It's like, okay, fuck you. Excuse me, but okay, there you go. That's for the guy who doesn't like the ponytail. So, back to the story. Okay, the CIA stuff. I want to address the CIA stuff because a lot of people think, they think these alphabet agencies, a lot of times there's a lot of different alphabet agencies, and we'll say CIA, and that's a euphemism for all these other agencies. So spooks, spies, alphabet people, whatever you want to call them, that they all kind of will lump them into all the same thing. And not everybody that's in this industry gets a paycheck from the Navy or from Washington. I mean, okay, all the CIA people, the Navy writes all the checks for those guys, okay? And not everyone that's doing this gets a check from the Navy. There's cowboys, okay? And they're real cowboys. And these guys live off the fat of the land, and they use the information that they get to stay one step ahead. That's how they make bucks. I mean, come on, it's an intelligence agency. Of course they know what's going to happen, so they cash in on that stuff. But that's what I was. I was a contractor. When I first got involved in this stuff, I was relatively young, and this was when Saddam Hussein was fighting Iran. Okay, and they used dummies fresh out of school like myself to get involved in this stuff, because that way if things went bad, they could throw us under the bus and move on to the next naive person to take advantage of. And they wanted, what did they want us to do? They wanted us to come up with items like, for instance, Motorola communication gear. They were using that, of course, for, you know, troops and what have you. And that was no big deal. And they were going to pay 100% markup. So whatever it cost for the product, they would pay double. This was like, wow, what a great deal. And then they started wanting some more sensitive items. They wanted phased array radar systems for the Baghdad airport. And I had a buddy that worked for Hughes, and they just happened to be involved with the phased array radar programs. They call it the Firefinder project. And they wanted these things to park around the Baghdad airport. Well, needless to say, the FBI got involved about that point and shut that thing down. And of course, the CIA guys, they just disappeared. So we were on our own, but we got through it. Nobody got in trouble. But all my friends that were involved in the project, they acted like it never happened. They all got selective amnesia. And they said, hi, you're making it all up. It's like, wait a minute, you were involved. You know, it seemed pretty real at the time. The next big deal with these CIA characters actually turned out to be the NSA. But I'll explain how I found out. It was the Ollie North people. And they wanted solid-state lasers, and we had a design for making these little circuit boards, and this was brand new stuff. The semiconductor lasers, the itty-bitty lasers that they have in CD players and what have you, your DVD players, these were brand new. They were just coming into the country from Japan, and we got this contract with these guys, and we became suddenly the biggest laser company in the world making these solid-state lasers for a short period of time, of course. But they were putting these things on, building gun sites with them, and they would put these things on weapons, and they were giving them to the Contras, and the Contras, they worked really good in the jungle. You know, the jungle's a low-light situation, so the lasers gave these guys an advantage. They had the law rockets, you know, little tube-launched law rockets. They put those things on those rockets, and whoosh, straight line, take out a truck. Worth every penny for that laser. You know, really easy, makes it really easy for these guys in the jungle to wage war. And anyway, the rest is history with those guys, but that was just being a contractor. I was not, I mean, technically, yeah, I got money. Sure, I made money from these guys. I got lots of money. I was supposed to get millions, but they never planned on giving me the millions of dollars. It was a screw job. That was the first time they tried to get me out in Area 51. And I got a clue into the future because they were asking me about laser projects that I hadn't even invented, that I was going to invent like 10, 15 years later. You know, they already knew I was going to do it. I had no idea had no idea that I was going to do these things, but they knew more about me. I had a falling out with those guys, got hooked up to the Billy Meyer people, you know, which is the Pleiadians and the UFO guys, and that's where I learned all about this UFO business, and I thought, yeah, I don't know if I believe this, but filed it all away, okay. But dealing with these NSA people really messed with my head, okay, because they were killers, and I was a kid, and I thought, God bless America, one nation under God, and all that sort of thing. I didn't think we did stuff like that, you know, death squads and men, women, and children, and just, you know, apparently we do, and I'm very cynical about that, and, you know, if you know me, I am very, I hate that, you know, just, especially when children are involved. That was not the last time I was dealing with the CIA. I also was involved with another guy who was building a big flashlight that was called a plasma beam. And this thing wasn't just a flashlight. This thing was, they used it as a weapon. You know, it was so bright. Hell, they used this thing at Waco. Okay, they had this, they would put these infrared filters on this thing, and they would shine it into the windows of the house at Waco. And these people wouldn't even know that they're doing it. It's enough light to blind you, and it's infrared. You're looking at it, you don't even know that your eyeballs are being fried. And this is one of the many nice things that they did. But they also use them for search and rescue. It's the sort of thing, you stick it up in the sky, it looks like a lightsaber. And this is the pilot. They'd use this like when that pilot crashed in Yugoslavia, when we were fighting Yugoslavia, they used one of those things for that. But those people were the ones that were telling me that I dealt with the NSA. Before that, I didn't know. After that, I got involved with these Templar Caver people, these Bilderberger types. And we talked about that, about the Getty, because that last big thing is I disclosed that these guys have got this big fortress underneath the Getty here in Los Angeles. And I'm still here today. They haven't killed me. Nobody said nothing. You know, I've been waiting for, I'm sitting by a window, I'm thinking, is that car is somebody going to shoot me through that window? But I haven't been poisoned or nothing, and I'm here talking about it today. And, 8,000 hits or 8,500 people at least to watch that video know all about the Getty now. And that's all over the world. I've been all over the radio talking to probably at least 100,000 people by now, all over the world. I was on the radio the other night, and there was 2 million people in the audience. I'm thinking, wow. And the people, nobody has heard this stuff. And I'll tell you, this is a big deal. This is a weak link over there. So that was the juicy stuff. People like the juicy stuff. Now we're going to move on and try to get into something a little more positive. Yeah, we're not going to get political tonight or anything like that. The business with the conspiracy theory and the metaphysical and whatnot, you're seeing a lot of tension right now in the industry. Now, this is a billion-dollar industry, okay? The whole ET, what have you, conspiracy theory, your Jesse Venturas, your Alex Joneses, et cetera, et cetera. And you'll notice there's been a little bickering going on with, between Jesse Ventura and Alex and David Icke. And a lot of people, some people, they don't want to connect the dots. They want to look at some dots, and other people want to look at other dots, but they don't want to tie it all together. But it does all tie together. And that's so important. So let's kind of look at ways that we do struggle. The conservative Christians and the metaphysical types don't see eye to eye. Okay, when I teach Reiki, the first thing I try to do is I try to show how in the Bible it says this is a good thing. Christ said, go ahead and do it, go out and do it. It's a gift. When we do healing, we're channeling the energy. It's not coming from us. It's not us. We ask for permission to do that, and we ask for that energy. The conspiracy business, people they look at motives. Everybody wants to attach a motive to anything. Anybody does something, they want to look at a motive. Humans, this is something humans do. We all think, how could they do that? What could their motive possibly be? I don't understand the motive. It's like, just because you don't understand the motive doesn't mean that they don't have a motive. And usually, the motives are multiple motives. And this is one of the tools that they use to confuse you. For instance, Flight 800, why did they shoot down Flight 800? Or any of these things that they do. You'll think, oh, well, they did it for this reason. No, they did it for this reason. Well, they did it for all these reasons. They always cover multiple bases. And one of the reasons for doing this is because a lot of times these groups that do these things are actually combinations of little groups with different agendas, kind of like the Congress. But that's what they'll do. And a lot of times people will argue, they'll say, oh, the Nazis did that, or they'll, well, no, it's the Zionists. Look, it's the Zionists. No, it's the Masons. You're like, no, it's the neocons. They're all in bed together, and whenever they pull off an operation, they usually all get something out of it. Okay, so that's one of the things they do. The other thing they do is when they shoot something, like when they shot down the plane, people say, oh, there's a bomb on board. Someone else says, oh, there was a laser. Someone else says, no, man-made lightning. Or someone else says, no, it was a missile from the frigate cruising around. It was all those things. That's what they do. They say, oh, you know, we found explosive on the seat cushion here, and this hole was here, but the pilot saw this, and we argue. That's what humans do. Oh, my answer is right. I know more than you do. Oh, you're wrong. That's an ego trip, and we don't see, instead of arguing, we don't see the big picture because we're too busy arguing about these details. And they use this tool over and over again. 9/11, Twin Towers. I get this argument, it's crazy. People say, it was nanothermite. No, it was scalar weapons. No, it was jet fuel. No, it was a small nuke. Probably all those things. So we're busy arguing about what it was and nobody... I'll give you a good one, Noah's Ark. Okay? How many people... Noah's Ark... Well, there's this big anomaly in Iran that looks kind of like an ark. No, there's this big anomaly up in Mount Ararat that looks like Noah's Ark. No, it's this one. No, it's this one. And so everybody's so busy arguing about which one of these things is the true ark that they don't want to admit that there isn't actually an ark. They get past the whole question. Guess what? There's two arks. That's the answer. That's the obvious answer. People don't see that stuff. Back to the conspiracy theory stuff. The Jesse Venturas of the world and what have you, or the scientists, one of the reasons why we can't look at the motives, or we can't understand these motives, is because a lot of times these plans, these schemes, they go over 100 years. Many generations will be involved in these operations. And people don't like to think in terms of more than one lifetime. We think, oh, this evil human is doing this. Well, when they're dead, it's not going to continue, and it'll be over with that human. Well, it doesn't work that way. It's like the Masons. They've been around for a pretty darn long time, and their agenda is something that they've been planning for years and years. Obviously. I talked about the protocols. Again, I'll bring it up. Nobody's got me. Nobody has complained about me actually bringing it up last time. It used to be they'd crucify you if you even said that in public. So there I go. It brings up prophecies and talks about things, and it was written over 100 years ago. And it reads like a book of current events. So this gives you an idea of just how long it takes for these plans to come to fruition, So and a lot of times, and I'll tell you what I found really quick when I had my falling out with the CIA guys and all that was that, and I had to go back and I had to study. One of the things about these spy groups, and you're not going to find this out unless you get really deep into it, and that is that they're very much into what I first thought was religion. I thought, wow, this religious stuff really seems to play a big role in everything these guys do, or everything they plan. And then you start seeing the astrological stuff, all the big operations that are planned out to constellations and events, astronomical events. And pretty soon, and then you trace this stuff back through history, and you're looking at the motives, and you're like, okay, well, this group came from this group, they came from this group, these guys, so and so begat so and so, et cetera, et cetera. You get back to the flood really quick, and then you think, oh, wait a minute. All these guys came from 3 brothers on one boat, 3 brothers, and it's like, okay, come on, something's not making sense here. Where did the Canaanites come from? Why do they hate them so much? Yada, 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 yada. So a lot of things don't make sense. When you factor in this idea of a second ark, all of a sudden, that's why they hate those people. The guys from the one ark now, they're hell-bent to wipe out the people from the other ark because they thought, If you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's a fun tangent. The Epic of Gilgamesh talks about an ark. But in the Epic of Gilgamesh, they describe an ark that's kind of shaped like a canoe. like a big canoe. It's got pointed ends, unlike the one in the Bible, which is like a big rectangle. Big surprise, the one in Iran is like a canoe, and the one in Ararat is a big rectangle. You know, so it's like, okay, well, the guys that got off the boat in the Epic of Gilgamesh, it sounds very much like the Bible story when you read it. But they do some stuff that's a little weird. Like they immediately have blood offerings and burned offerings and whatnot. And the narrator of the story basically asks the captain of the boat, says, how did you know to build this ark? You know, like Noah. You know, Jehovah or God or whatever told Noah, but he didn't tell you. How did you know? And the captain, whoever it is, answers back. He says, what? You think only the followers of God have this information? You don't think the dark side has access to this information too? You know, but that's a clue. Okay, so these are allegedly the bad guys, because they're giving their blood sacrifice. Their stuff is coming off as kind of satanic. Okay. And if you follow history, you see Nimrod came after, what, 2 or 3 different, what have you, and all the nonsense in Babylon. And Nimrod was very famous for human sacrifice, okay? And if you look at all of the satanic mythology, and I don't really want to say satanic per se yet, but most of that demonic stuff associated with demonism can be traced back to Nimrod and Nimrod's mother, Isis. Now, today, if you look at the power structure that rules the world, and these guys have been ruling the world since the flood, and probably well before that, they are following the same rituals, they are worshiping the same deities, it's essentially Isis and Nimrod and et cetera, et cetera. And they're still doing blood sacrifice. And, when you go down underground in these bunkers and you're dealing with these cavers, they're doing the blood sacrifice. And, and for that one reason, probably alone, is a good enough reason to never want to be one of those people. They convince you that you're so much better than everybody else, and that you're a god amongst men, and they're Olympians, and we're just like, titans or whatever the heck. You got to be pretty screwed up in the head to think that you're a damn god walking amongst men. And but these people are like that, and this is why, and I've said this before. This is why these guys don't think twice of mass murder and shooting down airplanes and spraying us with chemtrails and sending out zombies to commit heinous crimes, to enact even more heinous crimes against us. I think you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so I guess the point I'm trying to make with respect to that is that there is a dark force involved in this. Whether or not you want to believe in Satan, Lucifer, whatever, that's your prerogative. But you must understand that these people that rule us do. And this is why they do these things. And when you're out there looking for a motive, and you're out there trying to understand why would they do these things, how could humans do these things to other humans? It's like something the other day, somebody said, as an Obama supporter, they said, our president would never do that. And I'm like, wait a minute, the guy's bombing children in Pakistan every day. What are you talking about? He doesn't think twice about killing children. So you don't get in those positions of power without selling your soul. And that applies to almost any industry, corporate industry, the entertainment industry, obviously, and whatnot. And I'll tell you, you got to also understand that, when we talk about the entertainment industry, that applies to this industry too. So if somebody's going to rise to the top of this industry and have the most influence, you've got to take everything they say with a grain of salt. And you got to take everything I say with a grain of salt. And you got to take everything that anybody says with a grain of salt. and become an observer, and don't become emotionally attached. You know, when these horrible things happen, you become emotionally attached. A couple things happen. One, you have fear. You know, you're generating loosh, you have anger, and you have sadness, and a lot of times this can cloud your ability to see what's really going on. You know, and in this business of being enlightened and trying to expand your spiritual powers and your psychic powers, this is one of the most important things. Controlling your fear, becoming emotionally detached from as much of your environment around you as possible, because that's a tool. Things in this dimension, we're in a dual polarity density right now. Everything that we're dealing with is two sides of the same coin. Everything, almost anything you look at has a dual side, a polarity. And that's changing. That's what this transition is about. You're gonna see friends and family and people you've known your whole life drift away rapidly, and perhaps not in a pleasant way. And that's because a lot of people are growing, a lot of people are waking up. I like to say it's the separation of the service to self versus the service to others. Money is going to be a big divider between people. Some of us, especially the guys that have a lot of money, and they think, I don't want to give this up. I'm really enjoying all this stuff, and I want more stuff, and I don't want this to change. They're going to keep, their timeline is going to stay the same. Again, my message, my big message, service to others. This is the most important thing in the universe. It's number one, and you need to be a little more than 51%. Do what you can. And, you know, I was thinking, my thing now is I tell people, feed the birds. You know, throw some bread out for the birds. That's like all those little creatures that you're serving. It's like, what a fun way to serve others. You know, that's cheap and easy. You know, and doing little simple things like that for animals rates just as high as serving humans. In fact, technically, the higher level densities get more brownie points for serving lower densities. And that's why we have a lot of the interaction we have with these aliens. And I'm not saying all the aliens are good aliens, but even the good aliens and the bad aliens ultimately want to go up. And they do that by pulling up the lower levels. So this is what they're doing. It behooves them to help us reach enlightenment, okay? And by enlightenment, I mean, you got to get exposed to everything. You got to open your mind really wide, and you've got to start taking in information that you would not normally be prone to taking in. Because you've got to start taking it in from sources that may not agree with you. And you've got to, again, take it with a grain of salt. You've got to filter it, and you've got to stay grounded. I am Christian and still Christian, and that doesn't give me a problem with my UFO stuff and all that nonsense, because it helps me. It helps me, give me a little bit of a filter. It helps me to decide what resonates with me. It helps me to stay grounded, not go nuts by the gravity of some of this crap that I've got to deal with. You know, I mean, you know, when you go through this process and you become awake, and I know everybody here probably remembers when they became awake, and it's a painful process because it feels like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders and you can't tell anybody about it. You can't share this information with anybody, and you're starving to learn and to hear and to be with people like what do we say? We say like-minded people, right? So that's why it's so great to be in a group like this. You know, the energy is fantastic, and we're all sharing it. It's going to be little ripples in a pond. You guys can go out and say, oh, wow, I heard this, I heard that, and you're going to tell your friends and, you know, share stuff on Facebook and all that fun stuff, and people are going to learn. And I hope you guys, I hope I answered some of the questions and all that. And you know what I'd really like to do, since we can do whatever we want. It's our show. I'd like to give you guys a chance to ask questions and stuff. You feel like doing that?
Anyone who has some studies with Edgar Cayce referenced this way back to a point where he's talking about the sons of Belial and the sons of light. What's interesting about this that I found in my native studies was that he also actually related to how this dark side that has been there since whenever was part of the, and this, I don't say this to be insulting, but this is just something that Casey spoke of, that part of the European invasion into the native lands is a repeat of this same war. The Iroquois actually had a history through Casey to Atlantis. And he's actually talking about how these negative or dark essences that have always been around, you're still involved with them. It's not like they've gone away. As a matter of fact, they're trying to increase their presence. And this is one of the things I've said in some of my talks, is that we need to be careful what we give our hearts and mind to, because those are easily influenced. So it's fascinating to listen to some of what you're saying, because these energies are not copacetic. So my question was if you had heard of any of that.
Well, I try to, when I try to counsel people about the dark energies, and one of the most important things that I stress with people is that you have to have a spiritual armor or a psychic armor. And again, service to others is a great way to get that. You know, the dark energies, we let the dark energies into our lives, you know, and it's just as easy to build that shell, that magnetic field around us. And you know, with the stuff with the chemtrails and all that, you know, we got rid of all the orgone. You know, the orgone's a nice way also, having that around you. That's kind of the same thing. You're around dark energies. And the other thing is the people that you're around. You know, if you're sharing your space with somebody that's got a really nasty energy field, you're gonna pick that up. So you have to choose your friends wisely. But thank you for that.
That's something that I think I discovered, maybe other people discovered. But I will say this: do you know the sun is exalted in what sign? Do you know? The sun is exalted in Aries, okay? And the moon is exalted in Taurus, okay? What do they have in common, the Taurus and the Aries? They have horns. So this is why this planet is going to be in constant feud. And I heard that it's going to be a big secret that the Illuminati will tell the people that they say that God and the devil are the same. And maybe, I don't know, this is something I saw on a YouTube video. They said that this is that's what they're going to start to tell the people. Now I'm looking, I'm like, why is it that the sun is exalted in a horn, you know, horn figure, and the moon is exalted in a horn? So basically, I'm wondering, like, wow, you know, they're both horned. Why isn't it that the sun is not exalted in Virgo or just exalted in Leo? Both of them are horns. So that's interesting. So that seems to be why people will not probably find peace on this land. It's been from dark ages to this age is to that, but people constantly kind of keep feuding and fighting with each other, because this is the planet really almost like the second war planet after, I think, human beings got, you know, left from Eden. They have never been right with each other. And now they're constantly, you know, when you see bulls fighting with each other, they're always going head to head. So all the human beings and all their split different religions and different races that they believe that they are, they're just going to always be head to head, because this is a planet that this is going to take place because of the fact that I believe the moon and the sun are exalted in horn figures, and then they say that the devil has horns according to what the Bibles or whatever they depict how he looks. So that was funny to see that those two cosmic things that we depend on, the sun and the moon, are both exalted in horn.
Thank you. I just want to respond to one thing that you said about and I mentioned this in my last speech, but she's right. These, I don't really know what to call them, not really Satanists, pagans, whatever, but I've experienced this at least twice in my life with people that I've met who had some questionable belief systems. And when they were confronted with some of the more nasty side of the satanic stuff, you know, i.e. the altars and the human sacrifice, their immediate response was, oh, God and Satan are the same thing. You know, so you're right. They, you know, whenever you really challenge them on that, that seems to be their response. You know, I mean, they're not going to deny that Satan exists, but they're going to say, oh, well, you know, it's the same thing. It's just two sides of the same coin. Da da da. I don't believe that. You know, and they use that as a defense mechanism.
That's where I think they got it from the idea of those two things, those two constellations. That's what I feel. Because where would that come from? And why is it that my only thing is I never understood in this life, why is that the devil was ever in heaven and then was cast down? You know, that was really strange for me to understand as a child. Why was he even there and then somehow he was not good? What tainted him enough to be kicked out of heaven and down into wherever? Strange. Just strange question, really.
I just wanted to add to a little bit of what you said with the sun and I'm sorry, hold on. Perfect time, right? Anyway, I'm sorry. What I wanted to explain in their belief system, okay, they worship the light. Illuminati means to illuminate, okay? The light to them is Satan, right? That's their God, okay? Confuse them, confuse the people, back and forth. The moon, full moon is sacrificial, okay? When the moon is full, that's when they do their sacrifices. Blood offering. Blood offering is in a lot of religions. Even by taking the blood of Christ in the Catholic religion and putting it in your mouth, that's another blood offering. In the Jewish religion, after they sacrificed all the children or whatever, they put a red X on the door so they wouldn't take the firstborn child. And that was done in blood. That was another blood offering from a Catholic. So this goes on and on and on and on in a lot of different religions. And the moon is symbolic to them for sacrificial time. Halloween is another sacrificial time that they worship. So is the sun. The sun is their light, their illumination. And their sun is represented by Satan. Disagree?
Thank you. I have to absorb it all and observe. Okay, one more, Dee Marie.
There's all sorts of ideas as to what represents what, and it actually changes from civilization to civilization. It's kind of like what Jerry said, that even in our dreams, just because something symbolizes something to me doesn't necessarily mean it symbolizes it to you. But the bottom line is that nobody can do anything without your permission. And so what I'm hoping is that you're going to actually share with us some of the energetic things that we can do. You know, the Course in Miracles says to gaze upon the crucifixion but do not dwell there. And so while we know these things are going on, where, again, as I said earlier, where our attention goes, our energy flows. So if we are truly about creating this new era in consciousness, then there are tools that I'm hoping that you will share with us.
Well, that's a perfect final questions to end with. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, again, the first thing I want to address with respect to what you said was the fear issue and the trying to become non-emotionally attached and to become an observer. So yes, observe. Don't dwell on it, don't focus on it, don't be consumed by it, and don't let it affect your outlook. Don't let it affect your emotions. Don't have an emotional response. That's the first thing. And as far as tools, You know, those are two big tools. Those are very important tools, okay? And what I like to close with is my mission is to help everybody expand their psychic skills. Okay, I want us to all be able to do magic and, you know, all these wonderful things, because I believe that very soon we're going to wake up and we're going to be able to do some fun stuff. So, again, let's go down the laundry list of tools and things that you need to implement and do in your life so that you can start going down the path and start realizing all these fun skills. Again, control your fear. Stop worrying about death. Forget about that. Your time comes when your time comes. All right? So that's one of the first things. Stop worrying about death. Do your best to not worry about the money situation, your tomorrow. Don't feel like, oh God, how am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? And let go of things in the past. Okay? Don't hold on to garbage. That's important. You try to be humble. Very important. Control your ego. And that means don't worry about what people think about you. Not just don't get a swollen head. Rule number one, back again, service to others. Do that as much as you can. Yeah, but give it just one moment. Learning is very important. Everybody needs to become researchers. Go out there, go online, turn off the TV. You're not going to learn anything on TV. CNN, the newspapers, forget it, okay? The internet's where it's at. And share what you've learned. Teaching, okay? There's energy exchange when you teach. When information is given out, energy comes back. So it's a two-way street. When you're teaching, you're absorbing energy, and when you're learning, you're giving me energy. I'm getting charged up just by you guys sitting here. It's amazing. And that's what I'm going to finish with. But again, service to others. Okay? So please go out there and don't be afraid. And don't worry about the future. It's going to be wonderful. Oh, yeah. The book is Lasers, Cavers, and Magic, and you can buy it on lulu.com, and it's an ebook also. Thank you very much. And oh yeah, there's a couple on the table over there for $20. What else do I need to say? Oh yeah, please friend me on Facebook. Okay, Stephen D. Kelley. You know, find me on Facebook. I've got room for about 3,400 people roughly. So come on, you know. And again, thank you for watching my videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Okay? Thank you for making what I think was a pretty darn good show. All right? I really appreciate you guys coming out and being with us tonight. So, thank you. Thank you.
So, Steve, thank you very much. This man has a wealth of information, especially when it comes to energy healing. So you may want to talk to him afterwards and get some pointers. He does a good job.
Thank you.
So now what we're going to do...
I wanted to contribute to what he said, of what we can do, where intention is, okay? 2 or 3 years ago, after I did this research and came to a business plan of vertical integration of what this is, vertical integration, I wrote this little thing that we say twice a day. My version is a little different than his, but the way mine goes is, I accept my part in God's plan for salvation. I take a stand on one side today. I side with truth and let illusion go. I will not vacillate between the two, but take a firm position with the one. God's peace and joy are mine. Let me be still and listen to the truth. Let me remember I am one with God. In quiet I receive God's word. Today no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. I trust the plan, expect to have freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom of speech, and freedom to worship God. Help us to help ourselves for the highest and best good for all concerned.
Wow.
Whatever we ask in prayer, we will receive.
Thank you, Diana. That is amazing. Okay.
And she's right, you know, Word, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And so basically, your intention and how you vocalize that, come up with your own mantra, and just use that as your anchor for protection, and setting the intention of the good that you wish to do in the world. As Steve says, the service to others, that's what it's all about. So I'm hoping what you took away today, you're all going to have your own takeaways, but that we can balance between the dark and the light, and we can focus on the light, because certainly that's the world that we want to bring into fruition. And so, you know, keep searching. Project Camelot and other organizations that are out there with their flashlights, shining and unveiling things that have been designed to be hid from us. But go out there, see it, acknowledge it, don't dwell on it. Use that as a catalyst for you to come out into the world and do your good. Okay? So now I believe we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back, and Jerry and Alex, they're going to play some music for us. And then what are we going to do? Mingle and mix and just kind of have a good time?
We actually are going to be ordering some Japanese delivery, so if you want to get in on that, come over here and tell me.
Okay, so we're not going to have to close up shop and run home. Let's get to know one another. Maybe we can even create some networking and partnerships right here. You know, make it happen. So if you're hungry, I know I am, just see them, and they'll get some good Japanese food ordered in, and let's continue the party.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, if any able bodies want to help us move some of these chairs and stuff back, we would like to have after hours. Once we leave here, we're probably going to end up over at Wild Wings or something of this nature, BJ's. And so this is probably going to be going on until at least 1 o'clock, or 1:30 probably, at least for us, I think. So yeah, we'll have fun. But we gotta reset up the temple for their services tomorrow. So we gotta fix. So while you guys are listening to music, I've got to haul in the chairs from outside, move this around, take down tables and stuff. So, you know, so if try not to pay any attention to the people moving the furniture. Anyway, okay, you guys, let's take a break.